I would like to invite each of you to listen carefully to God's voice in your heart. Listen to His voice. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid.
Hello and welcome. I am Father Garrett Burns, and you are listening to About 4 O'Clock, a podcast on vocations and discernment. With me today in the studio are the regulars, Father Chad Arnold.
Thumbs up, ready to go.
Father Drew Hoffman.
Walsh just gave me a little thumbs up. He's excited. You can tell that's about the extent of his emotion here.
And Father Andrew Walsh.
Thanks for having me on.
A big sigh.
The
He's
most
so
emotive priest in the diocese.
That's right.
Often mentioned on this podcast. You get a lot of shout outs on this.
I came to defend my reputation and my family's good name.
You've often been spoken ill of. I won't.
You don't
I'll
need to
stand for
defend yourself, because every time we say anything remotely harsh towards you, Zelly will come to your defense. So you have your defenders. You don't even need to work for
Who's
this.
Zelly?
They're out there.
One of his parishioners that thinks very highly of him.
Middle schooler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Zelly, I'm sorry that we have besmirched the good name of this pastor.
She was the one that asked me about, why did those priests say that you're grumpy?
I can't imagine why I wouldn't say that.
And I said, well, do you think I'm grumpy? And she said, no. I said, well, maybe those priests are wrong.
That's a good thing to teach a little kid.
Don't listen to those priests.
Don't ever believe priests.
Don't believe
That's right. You got to be choosy.
You don't
about
think
that.
you're grumpy at all?
Oh, I can be. Yeah, for sure. You guys can be too.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not grumpy. Don't do it. I don't do it.
Just when I'm around you, Walsh.
See, the difference, though, between you and I'm grumpy, and I try to hide it by my expressions. Moments you're not grumpy, but sometimes your inflection makes people think you're grumpy.
It comes off that way. Yeah.
My three favorite Walshisms are, I'm not disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in myself for believing in you.
When did he first tell you that?
Early on in seminary. He would often, when you say something dumb, he'll very gently and very pastorally comfort you and say, hey, are you stupid? Or, that's the opinion of many unthinking people.
I have said those things. You're right. Yeah.
Many times.
Many times.
Are you
Maybe.
stupid?
Maybe so.
That's my favorite.
Are you stupid?
It's straightforward. It's honest. It's
Yeah.
caring.
He's not like angry about it. He's literally wondering.
I'm just
are you a
curious,
stupid
yeah.
person? I don't know.
One of my favorite duos to watch converse is, and one of your good buddies, I assume, but is you and PJ. Like, I love just to sit in the background and you two, just very different personalities and approaches to life and ministry, go back and forth.
We go back to the beginning of our time in seminary when I applied with Father Matt. He told me, there's another guy going to Conception with you. And I said, who's that? He said, PJ Vogelai. And I knew PJ from Bishop Carroll. He was a couple grades ahead of me. I was thinking to myself, there must be two PJ Vogelai. Because the one I know wouldn't be going to seminary. But lo and behold, he did. And so we showed up the same day in Conception in January of 2008. And then lived across the hall from each other for a long time.
The other great one is him and Panair. When him and Panair get worked up against each other.
They wore the same pants yesterday.
That's right.
It was incredible.
I was trying to have a moment. I was like, hey, we're wearing the same pants. Then turns out they just look similar.
Yeah. Zach made it clear that,
We shop at
different
stores.
brands. Yeah.
You missed out. Panair went on a whole thing yesterday about his likelihood of being a bishop. It was an insane conversation. And then Bishop, like at that moment, Bishop walks out and everyone just starts like cracking up. I think Bishop probably thought we were talking about something weird. It wasn't at all. We were talking about Panair was just like, no, I really don't think they would do that. It's like, no, we don't think so either.
Yeah. Likelihood is not very high.
That would be, him being a bishop would be the opinion of many unthinking
people.
Are you stupid?
I can see that whole conversation unfolding.
Today, we're in the podcast studio of St. Alphonsus Liguori.
Let's go.
Of course.
One of Walsh's favorites.
You just unlocked a new achievement for your podcast by that one. Yeah.
We're going to get a whole Legion of Mary pitch here.
Yeah, tell us something. I don't know much about him. Tell me something about Alphonsus Liguori.
Born in 1696, died in 1787, approximately 200 years before I was born. and he was the second most recent doctor of the church to our time, besides the Little Flower, as you know.
You pointed to Drew there like he's the little flower.
Patron saint of moral theologians and confessors.
Mm.
Yeah, and he wrote 110 books.
It's a lot of books.
What's your favorite of them?
Yeah. There's one.
Drew said that as a facetious question, but no, go with it.
Chad, the other day, he was talking about.
I was wondering if this was going to come up.
He was throwing Alphonsus Liguori under the bus, and so I was very offended. And I was thinking, like, Chad, that's something that an uninformed person would say. And I did not say my famous line, but no, one of his best books, and one that I really like, it's called The Practice of the Love of Jesus Christ. It's his spiritual masterpiece. It's a line by line commentary on 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous.
I've not read that one, so
put it on your list.
It'll change my opinion of Alphonsus.
Pope Benedict said that he's the spiritual master, especially for simple people. And I consider myself a simple person. That's why I like him.
He says it is so demeaning. Like, he just says it so demeaning.
I think you might like this.
Nobody else in this room is a simple person, but I am a simple person.
He founded the Redemptors. Did he found the Redemptors?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you grew up in a Redemptorist parish, is that true?
That's right. So the priests that staffed the parish until I was a senior, we're all Redemptorist priests.
Okay.
So
did you know that as a kid that these were different kind of priests than other people?
Honestly, we didn't go to mass a lot of different other places, so I didn't really know that until high school or middle school. But also, there was always 2 or 3, sometimes 4 priests here. So there's always more priests here than, any other parish. But one of the priests, Father Walter Carr, would wear his Redemptorist habit, which was like a cassock and, it's a 15-decade rosary. So it was a lot, you could tell that he was different than other priests.
He's different.
People say that about you, too.
Yeah.
You can tell he was different.
Just by looking at me.
Walsh taught me one of the lines that I use a lot. How do you become a theologian?
You got to read shelves of books.
Shelves and shelves of books.
Shelves and shelves of books.
You can't just read books. You got to read shelves of books.
And shelves of books.
See, I'm more of a Leonard of Port Maurice fan than Alphonsus Liguori. So they were around the same time, and Alphonsus looked up to Saint Leonard of Port Maurice, just so we know.
Yeah, of course.
But,
he didn't look down on anybody. Unlike y'all.
I also don't think he ever said y'all.
I don't know. We have to check the
Have to read a couple shelves of books to find out.
People saint for the simple people. So maybe I don't know Liguori well enough.
I think you should be acquainted with him. I tried to give Drew a biography of him at the
biggest. We're at the clergy conference, and Walsh, you might show up with a notebook. Walsh shows up with the biggest book possible, just plops on the ground. What a reasonable thing to bring into a conference. A 6-inch tall book. I mean,
it's a complete biography. I thought you liked to read, so I was like, here, you'd like this. And then
he was offended. He was upset that I didn't take it.
He wouldn't take it.
We trade books.
So I walked across the room to Father Carney and said, hey, would you like this book? He said, yeah, that would be great. And so I said,
I like it when you give me more historical.
That is a historical book. It's a biography.
It's not a lie. It's just I wasn't gonna read that.
This is the grumpiness, Walsh. I'm just gonna point it out.
Why we ever get you confused for grumpy?
We are mutual fans of Warren Carroll, who's
That's
a great
right.
historian that we've read most of everything of Warren Carroll stuff. We've bonded over that.
One man can make a difference.
That is his whole thesis.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of you have recommended him.
Warren Carroll,
before,
I think.
right?
We both read Isabel, the Catholic Queen, over the last few months, and just all of his stuff.
Let's put that on my list.
Glory of Christendom.
It's amazing.
Yep.
Did you always read a lot of books? As a kid, were you?
Yeah, I like to read. But then it wasn't really until I got to seminary that I really liked the historical studies and those things like that. And so,
Speaking of that, what was your thesis on?
Irish Cistercian monastic architecture.
Does that come in handy or?
theses aren't supposed to. It's not supposed to come in handy, okay? It's supposed to be an academic exercise.
If one of the seminarians approached me today and said, "This is what I'm going to do my thesis on," I would have a serious conversation with them about why.
Well.
So why'd you pick that? Yeah.
Oh, well.
Convince me this is a good topic.
Let's have that conversation now.
Well, I took a class at Conception because it was a monastic history class, and we had to write about the Cistercians and their architectural layout of their monasteries. And so that became the seed of my thesis over at Kenrick. And I picked a monastery not in England, but in Ireland because it was near where my great-grandfather grew up. Okay. And so I figured it was in ruins in his day. Still is, obviously. And so he, that's obvious. He probably went to visit it. So I wanted to study about it. I haven't ever been to Ireland. Maybe someday I'll get to go. But that's why I chose it. And
I teased Walsh about all this because Walsh was a deacon when I was in first theology at Kenrick, and I really did look up to him as far as like taking the intellectual life seriously and reading, and those are things I wanted to do and still like to do, and Walsh did it the best. And so,
but I thought a thesis had to be no one had written on that before. Surely someone had.
I've got 3 books on that right now on my shelf.
Covered Dunbrody Abbey in Ireland.
I feel like that's the thesis you pick when I wanted to go easy, so that because no one knows anything about this. There's no way they can correct me on the information I provide because they know zero about it.
Some of these guys at Kenrick knew a lot about everything, so they would really grill you on, when you had to defend your thesis.
When I defended my thesis, one time I got a page back from Father Kriegshauser.
Yeah.
And it was every page I got back was all in red. And one time I got a page back, it said, "This page is pretty good because it's mostly quotes from other people."
So you wrote your thesis, and you haven't been there to visit.
No.
You got to remedy that. You got to get over there.
I'll go. I got to work.
Yeah, no hobbies. Walsh and I are not hobbies men.
If only you were pastor of a parish that could give you a good reason to go to Ireland.
Yeah.
If only such a thing were to exist.
St. Patrick?
Oh, yeah.
Where are you the priest at right
now? St. Patrick in Kingdom.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
If you didn't know.
Yeah. Walsh is also famously the creator of Bishop Kemi's Wikipedia page.
I forgot about that.
That was one of the last things I ever did on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And it's public. You can look it up.
You can still look it up.
I'll tell you the 2 things two Wikipedia pages I've worked on: Bishop Kemi's and Dunbrody Abbey. Okay. I'm kind of an expert on the second one. So.
We're just sitting in the Kenrick library. Like, "Walsh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm making Bishop Kemi's Wikipedia page," because he had just got announced that morning. He's like, so.
I didn't know what I was doing, and somebody ripped me a new one on the internet. So that was the beginning and the end of all my efforts.
Oh yeah, you got. We don't need to talk about it, but you're famously blocked on Twitter. We don't need to get into that.
One of the things I've always been curious about, you can answer as you wish, but sometimes in seminary guys would call you Cookie.
Cookie.
Why is that?
Well, at Conception, it became obvious that I like cookies.
Okay, so pretty straightforward. All right.
I think Jamie Zarsi started calling me Cookie Monster, and then Monstro de Galletas, Galleta, Galletito, Galletote, Cookie Lookie. I got all kinds of, some of the Hispanic guys, I think that was the only thing they knew me as was Cookie. They're like, Cookie.
Why was it so obvious of your love of cookies? I'm still. Who doesn't love cookies? Yeah. So I feel like there's got to be another level to this that you got that name.
Maybe the amount of cookies I would eat or demolish. Okay. My favorite part about that was when I went to Kenrick. Then I was a deacon, and we had a soccer game versus the seminarians versus the priests of the archdiocese, and it was the first time they did it. They had a big turnout, and they put on the radio, and they wanted to ask questions and one of the questions was, one of them was soccer experience. And my buddy put Division I soccer at Marquette. And I didn't know I didn't understand the question. So I put yes. Yeah.
I'd say yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is not my first time.
Yeah. So anyway, I nickname, and I was like, well, I guess my nickname's Cookie. So I was the last person to announce on either side because of my last name. And the guy goes, "And the man they call Cookie." Deacon Andy Walsh. And I ran out onto the field, waved at the adoring fans.
He has played soccer before.
Soccer experience? Yes.
Did you guys win the game? You remember?
I think so.
I don't remember.
They wanted the deacons to be on the priest team, but I was like, I don't know these priests, and I don't want to be on their team. I want to be on the seminary team.
Not grumpy.
Not grumpy.
Well, thanks, Walsh, for coming on. We're pumped to hear. Just your vocation story, the journey from how you came to receive this call to the priesthood.
Well, growing up, I don't think I ever thought about being a priest, at least not, it wasn't an explicit recurring thought. Although my family was very faithful, very involved with the parish, I had admiration for the priests. I liked to serve. One of my earliest memories in kindergarten, which was right over there, was
visual medium. We're at St. Joseph's.
Yeah, that's right. Was when one of the priests came and taught in our class, and I just remember that a lot, and then throughout middle school, high school, never thought about the priesthood. It wasn't a thing that I was on my radar. Went to Wichita State. Go Shockers.
We have your picture up.
Thank you. Yeah.
How many pictures are up?
Anybody who even sniffed 17th and Hillside.
Yeah. Is Ned Blick on there?
I don't remember.
I think he could be on there. So
let's put him up.
Let's do it.
So you're at Wichita State?
Wichita State. I'm a freshman, and I'm in a calculus class, and this guy next to me says, where'd you go to high school? I said, Bishop Carroll. He's like, oh, you're a Catholic? I was like, yeah. And he said, you should come to the Newman Center. That's what we called it back then, Father Drew.
We don't do that because there's also a Newman University. So it got confusing. It was not my decision.
It was not confusing to us.
Okay.
And I honestly didn't know anything about it. I did not know anything about it. So he invited me, and I didn't go. Then he invited me again. I still didn't go. And then third time he said, the girls lost a bet, and they're making us dinner. You should come. I thought, I'm in. And I went there and met a lot of great people, still call my friends. And just started going back, playing volleyball and praying the rosary, going to mass, adoration, confession. That's kind of how I got plugged in there. And then at the end of that semester, they were signing up for the March for Life. So I decided I want to do that. So I went to DC for the first time. And in the middle of hundreds of thousands of people, this lady comes up to me and she's like, where are you from? I said, I'm from Kansas. I said, where are you from? She said, I'm from Mary's Land. And I was like, and she said, that's what I call Maryland. And I said, oh yeah? And I was thinking, this is kind of crazy. And then she said something even more crazier, which was, you ever thought about being a priest? And I said, no. And she said, well, maybe you should. And she handed me a little figurine of the infant Jesus and stuck it in my pocket, and I ran away. And
crazy lady.
Yeah. So that was like the seed, but it didn't sprout right away. A couple months later, we went to KCCSC, Kansas Catholic College Student Convention. I don't think they have that anymore, but back then, and we went to it, and on the way home, I remember this pretty clearly. I just thought, you know what? I'm going to think about it. So I came home and told my mom, I'm going to start thinking about going to seminary.
Taking a big step.
Yeah, non-committal. So I did. And a few months after that, I found myself teaching Totus Tuus that summer for the Diocese of Wichita. Father Panera got booted down to Tulsa that summer, but I'm not trying to rub it in or anything.
No, you would never.
Pertinent detail to the story.
Important to the rest of the
Everybody
story.
was wondering.
Yeah, we needed that for the story.
That's part of the story. So all throughout the summer, my teammates, they were encouraging me, you should call, you should go, should think about it. And it was really on my heart. Every time I saw one of those vocation posters, I saw Father Matt's name and his phone number, and I thought about calling him. And then I was like, no, I'll do one more semester. So I go back to Wichita State for my third semester, and several things happened that semester. First of all, one Saturday night, I got into a little bit of trouble. Let's just leave it at that, and college things. And then the next day, I go to Mass here at St. Joe, and I'm just thinking, like, what is going on? Like, I'm trying to do the Lord's will, and then this happens. And so, but the reading that day, and I vividly remember this, and where I was sitting that day, it was Hebrews, and it was like, God chastises every son that he loves. And in the moment, it seems like, punishment, but we realize that there's fruit that's born of it. And then I got an internship and had a cubicle job in a big tech company that I wanted to work for. So, and that was not satisfying. And so that was kind of a realization of, okay, this is not what I want. And then I did Crossroads retreat, and I think there was a men's retreat in there somewhere. And anyway, then Father Matt caught wind that I was thinking about seminary, and he just came up to me and said, when do you want to go to seminary? And I said, well, maybe we should talk about if I want to go to seminary. And so we talked about it, and he just encouraged me to pray about it. And I did. And I went to the Adoration Chapel over here too. And that's where I realized I've got nothing to lose. I'm a young man still. I can leave. I can come back if it doesn't work out. I ought to give it a try. And so it was in the fall of 2007 that I decided I would apply. And Father Matt accepted me. And January, I started at Conception that year with PJ.
Where have you been as a priest?
I was first assigned with Father Matt at St. Thomas Aquinas for 3 years. Then I had a brief stop at St. Francis, the mandatory St. Francis stop, as someone called it. 12 months. There was a visiting priest that stayed longer than I did. And then I enjoyed it. I just kept moving further west until I made it to Kingman. And that's where I've been. This will be completing 7 years.
St. Patrick's Parish in Kingman.
Tell us a little bit about Kingman.
Kingman's a great place to land. That's our motto.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that really like a city motto?
It is, because Kingman is the hometown of Clyde Cessna. Oh. And so we're starting to have some aviation-themed things. There's a new place called The Hangar, and then we also have a brand new, they just put it up this week. I didn't know it was going to happen until I drove past it. A sculpture of an airplane there on Main Street in 54. So small town, 3,000 people, nice community. It's not a suburb of Wichita, so it's got its own flavor and community life. And even though it is close enough that you can, come in, or some people work in Wichita.
I have as you know, a lot of family out in Kingman area, and so most of my favorite childhood memories take place in Kingman. So yeah. It is a spot that has a very soft spot in my heart. Although the pastor that was out there at the time when I was a kid was Monsignor Rinkemeyer, and it's the only priest I ever remember being terrified of. He never did anything mean. He just had that aura of one of those old priests.
That's incredible, because someone recently said that Walsh was a fitting replacement for Rinkemeyer at Kingman.
I love it.
You made that up. Did you make that up?
I think we've talked about you and Rinkemeyer and the similarities when I was making fun of you for being grumpy.
Maybe so.
He's a good, faithful priest. Walsh.
Yeah.
He
did a lot of great things in the diocese.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes. Well, his memory still lives on, and some parishioners sometimes. One time, this guy asked me what we should do in this situation. And I said, "Well, what did Father Rinkemeyer want you to do?" And he knew exactly what the answer was, and he went and did it.
There you go.
Pretty
That's
simple,
awesome.
but yeah. There's a lot of priests, good priests have come out of been pastors in Kingman. So actually, I'm the third Father Walsh in Kingman.
Are you really?
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Charles and
no, it was long before that.
No,
Michael. This was in the 1800s, and then.
Are you
Alfred? Are you stupid? Don't you read the necrology? And then the one that built the church. Yeah.
Oh, the one that built it.
When was that?
1912 is when it was consecrated.
And you'll be the Walsh that remodels the church.
That's the hope.
Oh. Nice.
The great hope. I hope.
The great Walsh hope.
Yeah.
So, you talked about how you got to Conception.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, was it pretty smooth sailing from there after that, or once you in seminary, was there moments that really confirmed the call?
Yeah, I'll just share one moment. In theology school, I was at Kenrick in St. Louis, and this would have been Christmas of 2011. So it had been the first semester, at the end of the first semester, my second year, And a lot of my classmates were asked to leave, or they chose to leave that semester. And then we went back on retreat in January, and it was still just kind of weighing on my heart, like, all these guys leaving, should I leave too? And I was thinking about the passage where Jesus says, just John 6, that some of the disciples leave, and he turns to the apostles and says, will you also go away? And then Peter says, to whom shall we go, Lord? You have the words of everlasting life. And that sealed the deal for me. That was the moment when I knew I'm going to be a priest. The Lord is calling me, and my friends, they can walk away, but this is what I'm supposed to do. And the rest of it was just pretty smooth sailing, here and there. Had a good time, met a lot of good guys, reading books.
Ordained in 14?
14, yeah.
11 years.
11.
Maybe one of the greatest personal disappointments for me during COVID is Walsh and I were supposed to take a trip together to Yosemite National Park.
That's right.
And then I got quarantined here at the house, and so wasn't able to leave to do that. And so I still have not yet taken a trip with you, Andy, and I want to. So
could be fun. Could be a train wreck.
Anybody interested?
Yeah. Who's up for it?
Weren't you with John Tolbert that semester?
That year,
He was with you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was good. Good time to have somebody living with me, when everything was closed down.
He likes to tell how you made him shovel out the bell tower.
25 gallons of dirt that we took out of there.
Oof. So one thing that has been mentioned that I feel like it would be appropriate to offer you the chance to give a defense is there's a lot of golf talk on the podcast here, but you're also a golfer, if you will, right?
If you will.
Yeah. How do you prefer to golf?
Yeah, so nobody in my family golfs with clubs and balls, and
Just say golf.
I've never heard my dad. I don't know if you've even said the word golf.
I've just learned the word.
Yeah, so I've of course never played, but disc golf somehow in high school I started to play, and then in college, me and a friend we'd go out and play every single day. So. Yeah, I don't know. I'm that guy that gets to defend disc golf.
He is the captain. Walsh is the captain of disc golf in the Diocese of Wichita. That's true.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys that are passionate about it, but I guess maybe I'm the figurehead. But
few are as antagonistic towards the other type of golf as you when disc golf gets brought up.
I shouldn't be so antagonistic. I don't feel threatened. And if you like golf, go for it, But disc golf is just it's a low entry kind of sport, and once again, simple people. So
I bet Alphonsus Liguori would have been a disc golfer.
No, he would not have. Nothing about his spirituality speaks to low entry. You do you thing, I do my thing.
You have no idea.
We can have a speaker.
Stupidity is a condition. Ignorance is a choice. Okay, you need to think about that a little bit more. But disc golf is I just found this out. 75% of the disc golf courses in the world are in the United States. And
that tells you everything I think that we need to know.
And Emporia, Kansas is the disc golf capital of the world, they say.
I can't wait for you to take a big trip to Ireland. Everyone's like, what are you going to do? I'm going to check out some monastery ruins and hopefully find a disc golf course.
You laugh. That's what I do everywhere I go. And I'm not the only one. But we don't have one in Kingman yet.
Yeah.
And this is there's plans in place.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I feel like a great place to land would be a great sign outside a disc golf course.
You're right. Hey, look, I went to bat for it recently and told people that I'd be their greatest cheerleader if we put one in, because when the bishop asked me to go to Kingman, the very first thing I looked up was if there was a disc golf course there.
And you still said yes to the assignment, even when you found out there
obedience
wasn't one.
right there.
Can't you picture Walsh at the city council meeting? There's so many issues that need to get discussed. Yeah. Walsh is prepared to speak about why the city needs a disc golf course.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I feel like your evangelization game would really up. I mean, you bring Alphonsus Liguori together with disc golf on the course. You out there every day working with those people. I think
it could happen.
It could change. It could change the whole county.
Look forward to it.
You guys could be a part of it.
Are we trying to invest in this? What are we doing here?
Get in on the ground level.
Well, thanks, Walsh, and thank you all for listening to About 4 O'Clock. If you have questions you'd like us to address, you can email us at wichitavocations@gmail.com. You can also visit us at our website at about4.org. And today, Father Walsh gets the final word.
Well, besides St. Alphonsus, I also like Blessed Clement Marmion. So I got a quote from him that Pope John Paul II quoted at his beatification homily. He basically quoted Romans 8:28, all things work out for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purposes. And then he says, and this is in a letter to a seminarian, the best of all preparations for the priesthood is to live each day with love, wherever providence and obedience places us.
Until next time, be not afraid.